Hi everyone, for this week's assignment on joy and praise, I selected and watched West Side Story, which was really cool. I'd never seen that movie before. So I'm just going to go through the questions that we were asked to answer and then kind of go through that. I'm really bad at these video things, so I'm going to kind of be reading some of my answers that I typed out, but hopefully it's not too obvious. West Side Story is a retelling of Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet. It is a musical set in the Upper West Side of New York City in the 1960s, and it follows two rival gangs, the Jets and the Sharks. The Jets are a group of American teenagers, white American teenagers, and then the Sharks are a Puerto Rican gang. So the leads in this story are Tony, an American teenager who used to be the leader of the Jets, but has since left the gang behind, and Maria, the younger sister of Bernardo, the leader of the Sharks. So Tony and Maria, as you would guess, meet and they fall in love. They try to hide it, but people find out, and it causes even more dissension between the groups who have now reached a boiling point. So this movie, which is an adaptation of the Broadway musical of the same name, very clearly depicts the tensions of the race relations in a burgeoning city. So despite being made in the 1960s, the themes are pretty universal. They cover things like race, revenge, loyalty, and love, as you would expect in Romeo and Juliet. The second question we were asked to answer is, how do you perceive that the filmmaker is expressing prayers of praise and joy in the film you watched? So first and foremost, when you start watching this movie, it's very clear, dancing. So chapter 10 in our textbook begins talking about Fred Astaire and his dancing and how it is an outpouring of joy. So West Side Story begins with a very long dance number that features the rival gangs taking ownership of their turf. But the dancing in that opening scene and throughout the whole movie portrays pride and joy in who they are and kind of what they're capable of. So, and also singing is also something that Larson talks about in chapter 10. And he references perhaps probably the lightest and most joyous scene in the entire movie when he says, even West Side Story, so steeped in violence and ethnic tension, gives us the confident gaiety of I Feel Pretty, which you guys may have heard that song before. The impulse of most movie musicals then is to sing, even in the rain. And I think at this point it's important to point out the difference between happiness and joy here. So happiness is more or less based on of outward or external circumstance, and joy comes from within. And the theme of love that is woven throughout the story brings joy to Maria and Tony. So everything outside of their relationship is harsh and violent and not a likely place for happiness to occur. Yet the love that they have found brings them both so much joy that they believe that they can truly overcome the odds. In Psalms 16:11 it says, "You will show me the way of life, granting me the joy of your presence and the pleasures of living with you forever." I think that this verse could almost be a summary of when Maria and Tony met and how they felt when they found each other. So the joy that they experienced when they were together gave them both hope of a future of a happy life together, and just like basically living with each other forever, away from their neighborhoods that were full of hatred and death. And the last one we were asked was, how do you see redemption used or not used as a storytelling element in the film? So even though revenge is a key element throughout the entire story and a plot device, redemption is found in the midst of the very tragic end. The murder of Tony is the ultimate revenge for one of the Sharks, but after Maria has the opportunity to find her own revenge, she passes. And this act, and then kind of seeing what they've done, they kind of see what their hatred and their revenge has gotten them, and they actually come together at the very end to carry Tony's body out. So that's a pretty powerful moment at the very end. I would definitely recommend this movie. It's really great, and yeah, it definitely shows how you can find joy in the midst of hardship and through the midst of trials and when everything is against you. So I think it did a great job expressing a prayer of joy.